Shout out to the Cows Gang. I'm your host, Mr. Palmer, and welcome to the show, Victim or Volunteer. What I want y'all to do, grab the nearest couch, sit back, and enjoy the ride.
What up, Cows Gang? I hope y'all good. Hope y'all having a good time. Hope y'all sitting on the couch like me. I hope y'all got fresh, so clean, doing what you do. We got to talk about the NYPD. We got to talk about New York's finest. When it comes to police, I don't trust none of them. I'm going to keep it real with you. And I see a lot of bullshit that goes on with the police departments. But what I will say that I do that a lot of people, I ain't going to say everyone, but a lot of people don't do. One thing that I do, I comply. Even if I feel police pulling me over for bullshit, even if they got an attitude, they trying to find a reason to do some shit, I still comply. And you have police officers that do crooked ass. Unfortunately, they are good cops, but they all put in the same batch as bad cops. But I think that's everybody in general who are stereotyped. So I got to talk about a lieutenant, a female lieutenant NYPD police officer. Her name is Quathisha Epps. For those that don't know who she is the lieutenant of the NYPD. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna let you see, it's a quick short video of an interview she did in the past talking about herself and being an officer and stuff like that. Check this out, y'all. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Quathisha Epps of the New York City Police Department, and I am all things New York. I am a Bronx girl. I'm hailing from the Bronx, very proud of that. And New York is like it's an essence. Resilience to me is the getting through. It's not the going through. The most positive moment out of all of this is how much we all want the same thing. Beauty is what is real and raw and unapologetically inspiring. I feel very honored. It's a very nice way to say we appreciate you, and I appreciate that.
Now y'all heard it, Cows Gang. She say she a Bronx girl and what shit means to her, how she feel, about, the jewels she got on, what she represent, being a cop, and all that bullshit, right? Well, let's go back to December of 2024, right around before Christmas. It came out that this lieutenant was a top earner, making over $400,000 a year. You can't make it up. I know y'all like, how the does a lieutenant make $400,000 a year? Well, that's because she was getting all this overtime, left and right overtime. She made more than $400,000 last year.
Well, I'll be damned.
Now, since the came out, she filed and retired. So since she retired, she was just shy of 20 years with the department. She went on and did an early exit, but I know why she did that. Because if she get fired, she will lose everything she put in. But at least if she retire, she'll get it all. She was just shy of 20 years. And with the early exit, it will impact her pension and will cost her $12,000 a year supplement for cops who reached a 2-decade mark. But she was pulling roughly $204,000 the year before in 2023 of overtime. You know what I'm saying? And the chief is Jeffrey Maddrey's office. That's what the payroll records show. Now, what the source told the Post, that Epps' whooping overtime was capped after the Post exclusive report last month of her pay. And she was also told she'll be put back on patrol and apparently, do some crusty desk job. And she said there's no way she was going out on patrol. That's due to all the that was going on. Now, I see some pictures of her where, she looked nice, looked good actually, got her makeup. She received, awards and she's 51 years old and now she's faced with an investigation from the IA. For those who don't know what IA is, that's just internal affairs. And it looks that they alleging that she falsified overtime hours and signed off the time slip herself and coming to work late, leaving early, or not showing up at all and still getting all this overtime pay. And the record shows that in 2023, she worked nearly 1,627 hours of overtime on top of her regular shift. And that averaged 74 hours a week. Overtime plus her $164,477 base salary that she was already getting, it totaled to compensate her past $400,000. And it made her the highest paid NYPD employee. Now her boss, Chief Maddrey, made roughly $292,000 the same year, records show. You see what I'm saying? And check this out. Now, since she got caught up in that, let me tell you what she did to kind of take the off her to look at somebody else. This mother turned around and said that, and I want to make sure I'm reading this right. Now she comes out and said that the chief, Jeffrey Maddrey, is a predator. You can't make this up. What do you mean that he's a predator? She says that he demanded sex on a bitch.
Oh.
But before we get into that part, I want to let the news speak its piece about this highest paid lieutenant officer in the NYPD. Check it out.
Now to a developing story here in the city. The Manhattan DA's office now investigating a scandal at the NYPD. The city's top uniformed cop resigned Friday night. Former Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey is accused of trading sexual favors in exchange for overtime. It comes after another female captain accused Maddrey of sexual harassment. Derek Waller has more.
Jessica, disturbing allegations that have now gotten the attention of the city's Department of Investigation, as well as the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. A subordinate of Jeffrey Maddrey says she was coerced into performing sex acts in exchange for overtime benefits, and she says that abuse continued until this week.
I've been in the department a long time.
That's former Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey answering questions at a city council hearing this past Monday. The same day, Lieutenant Special Assignment Quathisha Epps alleges in this EEOC complaint, Maddrey offered to speak to the commissioner on her behalf about a personnel matter, but first demanded she, quote, kiss it, the complaint says, referring to his penis. She then decided to retire early. Lieutenant Epps says starting in June 2023, Maddrey engaged in efforts to coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities. According to publicly available payroll data, Epps made a salary last year of over $164,000. But after overtime was factored in, she took home more than $400,000, making her the department's highest paid employee. After refusing his advances in October, she says, Maddrey retaliated by orchestrating an intentionally manipulated monthly overtime report, which resulted in a criminal and internal investigation opened against her. The complaint dropping days after Maddrey was added to a lawsuit involving Captain Gabrielle Walls, who alleges he sexually harassed her. Systemic failures within the NYPD allowed Chief Maddrey's predatory behavior to continue unchecked, Lieutenant Epps' attorney writes in the complaint. Mayor Adams' office responding saying, we are deeply disturbed by these allegations, and the NYPD is investigating investigating this matter. Mayor Adams is working in close coordination with Police Commissioner Tisch as the NYPD conducts a separate department-wide review to ensure no high-ranking officers are using their power inappropriately. We will refrain from commenting further to avoid jeopardizing either investigation.
And Chief of Patrol John Chell is now going to take over as interim Chief of Department. In Lower Manhattan, Derek Waller, CBS News, New York.
And another big shakeup at the NYPD tonight. The chief of internal affairs is also out. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch announced that Chief Miguel Iglesias was relieved of his command. Tisch says Iglesias then notified the department of his intention to retire. Department veteran Edward Thompson was immediately appointed to fill that post. Right now, the department is not saying whether the move has anything to do with Maddrey's investigation.
You see that? You see that? Man. She done twisted around. She twisted around and made this a victim story. She said that he forced her to have sex. Demands because she's getting all this overtime. Let's talk about this. Now, it's funny how, it was all good just a week ago. But now, since she got caught with now all of a sudden, she was forced to have sex. So, as we take a look, she said that this chief officer was preying on her, wanted sexual favors. And here's the detail on how this man was preyed on her financial and emotional vulnerabilities to repeatedly sexually demean her in his headquarters office. So he in office. Now, she says that she was facing foreclosure and was desperate to keep her home the first time Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey asked for. Now, what's funny is how you make over $160,000 and you going through foreclosure. What the you doing with your money? Now, she said that he wanted to have anal sex, vaginal sex, and oral sex. So he wanted the 3 for free. He wanted the 3 whole special. He wanted it all. That was she said. And she said that in one painful section, because he was all over the section over his office. In one painful session, he bent over the sofa on his 13th floor office, and she claimed to the Post, sobbing, "I kept asking him, can you please stop? Then I stopped asking him to stop." Y'all believe that? Okay. And then she said, "Can you please just slow down? You hurting me. You hurting me," she alleged. And again, she's 51 years old, and she just recently made headlines that she was the top earner, making over $400,000, which included more than $200,000 in overtime. You see what I'm saying? Now, the chief, the highest ranking uniformed cop on the force, demanded unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities between June of 2023 and December 16 of 2024, according to the Equal Opportunity Employment Discrimination file claim. So she went to, I think it's EEOC or EOC or EOE, one of the that she used. So it seems to me that, in my opinion, that since she got caught up with this top earner, now she want to put the blame on him and say he was harassing me. So if he was forcing you to have sex, was he forcing you to do overtime?
Oh.
Because you still was getting overtime. You still doing what you was doing. So was he forcing you to do overtime? Because if he came out to you and forced you to have sex, you could have said, "No, I don't want the overtime because my integrity and my morals is different for what you want. I ain't on that." It seems to me, in my opinion, that this was a agreement, and now you come. Now all of a sudden you was forced. But let's continue. Now, she also alleged that Maddrey also used what he knew about her past as an incest survivor to take advantage of her. So that means maybe she was being raped by another family member, because it say incest survivor. And she also says, "I think he's a predator," Epps said. She also said, "He said, we're going to sell your house like you're supporting me when you're just me. And she also said when he wasn't demanding he was forcing Epps to do odd favors involving other female officers, according to the complaint filed by her lawyer, Eric Sanders, right? So the EEOC document is a precursor to a lawsuit. So yes, he found a lawsuit. So now she also came out and said that Maddrey ordered Epps to keep two mistresses. He had two mistresses apart because he didn't want them to know about each other. So he had two other bitches he was and he didn't want them to know anything. So Epps worked as administrator for Maddrey as he moved up in the NYPD from chief of housing to chief of patrol, but his alleged sexual demands didn't start until June 2023 when he became a chief of department responsible for the entire 36,000 member force, Epps alleged in the complaint. And she said that she confided in him that she was facing bankruptcy and foreclosure. And she said, he told me I could do whatever overtime I needed, she recalled. He told me I was like a sister. But Epps said the favors he demanded was anything but family related. He frequently sent her messages that said DAP, that's a slang for that ain't, which meant he wanted anal, Epps claimed. DAP, I gotta use that one. He also would come into her office and ask me to kiss it. She claims in her complaint in reference to his, so he say, hey, kiss it, that means get on your knees and suck this, I guess. And then she said he used to tell all the time, has a wish and a command, and she has to do what he said, she claimed. So that's all he had to say, and you just did it? And then she said, he said, strip for me right now, Epps alleged. Bizarrely, he ordered her to pay for a vacation to Miami for Maddrey and his wife, Helen. Epps claimed in her complaint, she said the trip that I paid for was $2,700, she recalled. He also said that he made it look like it was a gift. He had a whole script to what to say to his wife. He also asked her to give her family's Lower East Side apartment, which was in her kid's name, to a detective who worked for Maddrey. Now, the first alleged sexual overture with Epps occurred back in June of 2023 when Maddrey was sitting at his desk with his uniform pants open, rubbing his chest through his white undershirt, Epps alleged. And he said he had dreams about me and Epps claimed. And then she said allegedly, but chief, you're the chief of the department. He was like, but I'm still a and you look good. I don't believe all that. I don't believe that part. Then she said, then he asked her to go to the back room in his office where he has a couch and a bathroom, she said. And then she also said, he bent me over the arm of the couch, and when I tried to back away, he was just telling me, just let me put it in a bit, she claimed. So you telling me he bent you over and you try to back away. Now, I want you to understand how this sounds, Cows Gang. He didn't say that he roughly threw her over or forced her over. He said he bent me over the arm of the couch. And then she said she tried to back away. So you telling me you waited till he pulled your pants down and when you bent over for you to try to back away, even though he behind you trying to put his yeah, okay. Then she said next, he reached into the locker near the couch and pulled out a jar of KY jelly on the top shelf in the back and rubbed it on himself, she alleged. And then when she asked him to slow down, he said in a soft voice, I'm not trying to hurt you, baby. I'm not trying to hurt you, she recalled. See, that right there sounds very sus. And then she said the two had sexual intercourse about 10 times after that, Epps alleged. Epps claims that she was raped by a relative started when she was 4 years old and she was afraid to tell anyone about Maddrey. Who was I going to tell, she said. Who will believe me? The last alleged sexual encounter occurred on Monday after Epps went to Maddrey and said she wanted to retire following the post-expose of her excessive overtime, according to the complaint. See, again, she felt that she had no choice because she complied under coercion. She was forced to have with him. So was she forced to do all this overtime and get this extra money? Okay, let's go on to the interview where Maddrey said basically she's lying. It was consensual, wasn't forced. She knew what it was, but she tried to put it on me because she got caught in her own. Let's check this out.
Now, a News 4 exclusive. Earlier, I sat down with the NYPD's former Chief of Department, Jeffrey Maddrey, 1 week after he abruptly quit in the face of graphic, salacious reports that he demanded sex from a subordinate in exchange for generous overtime pay and other perks. Those allegations coming from a member of his office, Lieutenant Quathisha Epps, who described him as a predator and demanded sex from her and other favors since he was elevated to Chief of Department. This is just the latest bombshell involving the upper ranks of the NYPD and Maddrey's first interview since the scandal surfaced. He says he wanted to share his side of the story.
And I just wanted to come out and just stand up for myself and tell everyone that these accusations are not true.
Well, let's get into a little bit and ask about the one that is making the most headlines. Did you force sexual favors from a subordinate, NYPD Lieutenant Quathisha Epps, starting in June 2023? She's a ranking officer. Did you force that in exchange for overtime approval and other perks signed off by you?
Absolutely not.
What happened here?
Me and Lieutenant Epps, we worked together. Starting in early 2022. We were together, working together for about 1.5 years, and we were working together. One thing led to another. We had an office fling, and that's all it was an office fling.
Consensual relationship, you're saying?
Absolutely consensual.
How long did that last?
We had got together a couple of times. There was really nothing to it. There was no romance. We weren't girlfriend and boyfriend. We had an office fling, and that's all it was.
You're the Chief of Department. Some may look at that and say it may have been consensual, but you had far-reaching powers and this was a subordinate. Do you think that was appropriate?
It wasn't appropriate for me to be in a relationship with anyone.
And so let me be clear. You're saying that you had a consensual relationship with Ms. Epps. And that she's essentially lying in this EEOC complaint. What do you think her motivation is to do this now?
Would you mind if I answered that? Because, what happened here seems to be that Lieutenant Epps is under investigation internally by the NYPD since October. And the allegations are that not only was she putting in for excessive overtime, but that she was actually putting in for overtime that she had not completed or done, so that she was effectively stealing time. So when she put in her retirement papers, 2 days later, the NYPD suspended her. And they suspended her because of suspicion that she had committed a crime, which is stealing overtime from the NYPD.
It was abrupt.
Yes.
And some would say, well, if you didn't feel you did anything wrong, why did you leave so abruptly?
Well, there was a couple of things going on when I made the decision. I was already making a decision, and it was really weighing heavy on my mind. I was entering 35 years, almost completing 35 years of city service. I knew that I was going to have to fight, and I didn't want to have the constraints of the police department, being the chief of department, holding me back from fighting properly for my innocence. When you're in the police department, I can't say certain things. I can't do certain things. I have to have the Chief Maddrey persona. When you talk about my work speaks for itself. Driving down crime as the chief of department, all right? What I've done out there in the communities, what I've done in Brooklyn North, all right? I have given so much to the city, so much, and I've never asked anyone for anything in return, all right? Countless people who can never repay me for what I've done for them, all right? And I've never looked for repayment, not even from the lieutenant. So for her to try and spin a story like this is very hurtful because I've given so much to the people of this city.
During our conversation and during a press conference today with select members of the media, the former chief and his lawyer claim they have evidence backing up their statements the relationship with Lieutenant Epps was consensual, and they say it includes intimate text messages and images. We've reached out to Lieutenant Epps 3 times today. We've not heard back, but her legal team did respond to the Associated Press, saying Maddrey's lawyer's admission the former chief had a sexual relationship with Epps undercut a previous statement denying every aspect of the allegations. And, quote, we have a treasure trove of digital data that will hopefully bring this degenerate to justice. The NYPD also responded, saying they take allegations of sexual misconduct seriously and will thoroughly investigate.
Now, did y'all check out the interview with Jeffrey Maddrey? He just said It was all equal, meaning it was a mutual agreement. It had nothing to do with coercion, didn't have nothing to do with forcing, didn't have nothing to do with made me and all that bullshit. He said we had a sexual relationship on the job, and you know, it didn't have nothing to do with overtime. Now, as you heard, he did retire once he was accused, and of course, he said he did it for different reasons, but of course he did it because he want to keep his pension. Because if he get fired, he won't be able to get no pension. He lose what they put in his pension. You only get what you put in. So, what do y'all think about this whole thing counts game? Why would you wait till you get caught up in your to say, oh, sexual harassment? Oh, he forced me. When you was making all this money, it was all good just a year ago. It was all good just a year ago. Wasn't no problems, wasn't no issues until you got caught up. Now, I want to know, when it comes to Lieutenant Quathisha Epps of NYPD, is she a victim or volunteer? And also, before I get out of here, I want to let y'all know two things. You also got two other female cops who was getting all that massive overtime. You had one who made eye-popping $163,414 overtime in 2023. You know, that's a lot of money in overtime. Then you also had another one who was making, how much was this one making? Made over $55,923 in overtime. You know, so it wasn't just her, it was others. It was two others. But they didn't make nowhere near what this lieutenant was making. And lastly, before I go, the only victims of this whole situation are taxpayers. You can't make this up.
Y'all tell me what y'all think. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm Mr. Palmer, and this conversation is over. Cows gang, cows gang.